I'm Zach Kettner. This is my dad, John Kettner, and I'm going to interview him about sports here. All right. First question: who most influenced you in becoming interested in sports?
Um, my my junior high gym teacher.
How so?
Well, he at that time was we had a we had a kid in our school who was obviously a superior athlete, and he got me particularly interested in following and wanting to be like. He was several years ahead of me, wanting to be like this individual, and he actually did go on to become a all-star catcher in the major leagues, and his name was Ted Simmons. Came out of my high school, and I developed an interest probably when I was fairly young in baseball because of Ted Simmons.
Hmm. All right. Now, well, is there a particular athlete you admired when you were young?
Well, as I say, two athletes probably. I said Denny McClain originally, but Gordie Howe was by far and away, as I was growing up, the most influential athlete in my life. But Denny McClain became influential about when I was 15 years old and went on to develop, I didn't realize it at the time, but a record that will probably never be equaled. And that was 31 pitching victories in a year. But it was also an important year in my life, 1968, and I'll never forget it.
Um, what's the best memory of playing or watching sports?
Well, the Miracle on Ice was quite an event. It was, I believe, 1980. Uh, I also loved, I would say, Michigan State winning the 1979 championship was probably my best best sports experience among many, but that Magic Johnson, and it was also another important time in my life. We just had our first baby and a couple other things that was quite influential.
Uh, all right. Now this probably involves MSU as well. But what's your worst disappointment playing or watching sports?
Uh, I think I've come to grips with sports that they're up and down. And what's my worst disappointment? There was one.
Maybe the Big Ten championship game.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That'll be it. Yeah. There was. We drove down to Indianapolis. Michigan State had Wisconsin on the ropes, and we got a crummy foul against them, and we lost the Big Ten championship. And I guess that was disappointing because we'd made a big effort to go down there. We basically dominated the game,
Mm-hmm.
and because of what I considered a bad call, we ended up losing the game. And here we are, a long way from home. It's midnight. We've put out a lot of effort, and we're going home. And the fans, I think, were obnoxious there. I felt they were obnoxious.
Particularly.
No, but there's some other. I got to admit, I've had some. You know, every year you have some heartbreaks that you forget about. A missed basket here, a home run that got caught, or just things that. But that one was in recent memory particularly annoying. There was another I guess Michigan State comes to mind because we put a lot of effort into these games. And another one where a foul was called on the far sidelines, and I think it was again a Wisconsin game at State, and we had the game in the bag, and a freshman had a late hit on a guy. I think we definitely ended up losing the game, but there's a lot of those things, but they tend to fade away.
Okay. How would you say sports have changed since you were young? Kind of a broad one.
Well, I think they've changed many ways. I think the athletes have become better. I think the officiating has become more subjective. I think the advent of instant replay has changed things significantly. And the money they make has affected the way I look at sports and the players individually. I'll never forget that Al Kaline never made $100,000, or if in his last year made $100,000. I think that it seems to be much more of a um, corporate type. It's just another part of society in the sense that everything you can almost see the advertising and the salaries and the things like that have taken over sports. However, I think the athletes are probably better, and they do this for a living.
Yeah, as opposed to having other jobs.
Right. Originally, they're not so much at my age, but at the end of my when I was little, there were some people. This Denny McLean I mentioned. He also played the organ and did some stuff at nightclubs. I mean, sports wasn't totally their life. Now they're almost groomed from the middle school, or yeah.
All right, now last question: do sports matter, and how and why? I guess.
I think sports matter. I think it's a great recreational output for society. Uh, Certainly, from the time you're little until the rest of your life, you're exposed to them, and it's good. I mean, it teaches you that running around and kicking a ball, or throwing a ball, or skating, or swimming, or that's all good activity. Not all of it becomes relevant as you age. Probably certain sports are more important at different ages in your life. Like who knows that a 7th or 8th grader should know how to golf? I mean, but as you get older, that golf becomes important. Back then, it was all about kicking a ball or something.
Right.
But there's no doubt the sports are relevant and important and fun. And boy, there's nothing like a March Madness or an NHL playoff or a World Series to get you excited. And I think it's probably one of the best points in my life at this point.
All right. Well, thank you.
Sure.